gentlemen who went to the Utah fun trip, they came up with 4 values very, very quickly. And they were surprised how quickly they came up with it. They came up with the name Agile, good brand. And then they left, and then they did the principles together over time. So you can remember these 4 values have not changed since 1999, and they are designed for software. Now, when I spoke to Ari from the Agile Manifesto, he specifically said the one mistake that he thought they made was putting the word software in there. But it made sense at the time, right? At the time, they were software developers looking for software solutions. The Agile Manifesto was a software guide at the time. So, first one, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So you can see why, if you move from a process to a value-driven company, the value there makes total sense. Being locked into processes and tools will mean you will fail to adapt to the environment. And this is why I say Scrum is not as important as this value. Focusing on the individuals, which is the customers and the employees, and how you interact is more important than which tool you use with Jira or how much process you use with Scrum 14.5. Working software over comprehensive documentation. The second value. What we mean to say here is that it's only really valuable if it's working. You can document galore. And I did this with a major bank once. I spent 8 months documenting everything down to the nth degree. And then we changed it. Was the 8 months I did there valuable? No. Complete waste of time. Until it was implemented, there was no value in the work I did. So if you work on this value, you're saying that the value that we deliver is more important than documentation. And I would say a little bit further than that, that really it's when the customer receives the value, that's when you class your success. It's not when you deliver to users and then users are prohibited from delivering value to customers. There's no value to customers, you've delivered nothing. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And this is to create a collaboration between customers. And I believe a lot of people use this in terms of internal stakeholders and partners as well. So it's everyone you interact with. Instead of having a contract of exactly what you're going to achieve, it's about collaborating with them naturally when it makes sense. And the reason why that is because, again, if you try and capture all the requirements or scenarios that might happen, you'll spend a lot of time trying to do that and not enough time actually getting the work done. Whereas collaboration allows you to set some constraints in your contracts, but then actually find the right solution together. And that makes more sense. Lastly, responding to change over following a plan. Again, we're not saying that following a plan is not important, the same way in business agility. What we're saying is that you need the ability to respond to changes in your environment. COVID-21, new wars, new technology, new governments, new governance. How often have we been in an organization where the CEO has changed and suddenly the direction has all changed, and all those programs that you were working on are now just cut? You need the ability to change over following a plan, which is why that's one of the most important ones inside the business agility values as well. That is, while we value the items on the bottom, we value the items on the top more. So again, we're not saying that process and tools, documentation, contract negotiation, following a plan is not important. We're just saying that individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change is more important. And that's the key thing about values. And you can also see why we chose the values we did here at Surge in the business agility values. It's not that one's not important, but it's that one's more valuable than the other. And will allow you to adapt, be flexible in your approach, and respond to change. Cool. So values are quite easy to memorize. They're very hard to implement. And I don't recommend printing these off and putting them in your workplace and saying, these are our values now. You need to come to the conclusion that you will follow the values. And how do you follow values? Your team or art or organization will need to buy into the values, and every decision they make must be based on these values. And this is where the disconnect happens a lot. I see values in companies all the time, and I hardly ever see a connection between their processes and tools and their culture and their values. So you have to ask yourself, why even have the values if no one's even working towards them? The point of having values is that everything you do is aligned to those values. And if you can't align everything to those values, you need to change your values. Or you need to make the hard decision to change your processes and structure and tools and culture. So moving from process and tools into values may seem simple, but it's a lot harder than it looks. After the ski trip, they all went home and thought, yep, this is great. We come up with a brand name, Agile. As Martin Fowler said, would be pronounced wrong. Because I think in USA that they would call it Agile. But they went home and thought some principles behind it. Now, I will be the first to say a lot of these make no sense today. And we'll go through one by one. But we'll go through the principles on where they came from and why they made sense in 1999, or this would be 2000 now, in 2000. Customer satisfaction. 100%. This is still around today. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if every piece of software was about delivering to the end customer? Not an internal stakeholder, not a user, not a partner, the end customer. So when you overlay what a real customer is, this is brilliant. And the idea here is it's all about customer value. It's not about stakeholder value or shareholder value. It's about customer value. Why? Because that will increase shareholder value. And these guys knew about them. Again, none of this is new. These studies were done in the 1950s and 1960s. You've got Hertzberg of 1957. You've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got a lot of studies around motivation that clearly show that employees like to see the customer be satisfied. Karl Marx wrote about it in 1890s on alienation of customer. It's kind of well known, but unknown in the IT departments. So when you think about IT though, in the 1990s and the early 2000s, when you think you can get rid of an entire department once they're done, you don't give them the freedom. You want them to set something up and then leave. You want to keep up with the competition, not jump ahead. So customer satisfaction was very important. Okay, welcome and change. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. You want to rejoice in change requests, the earliest possible. Why? It stops you delivering a solution that's inferior to other people. If you would have even a 3-month project and you found out in the first week that this is actually a no-go, fantastic. Can that project get on to the next one? You want to have this mindset to be able to pivot without mercy, as opposed to just keep going, delivering it and going, oh yeah, there's no value, but we had budget for it. It was great. Welcome change. It's a positive thing. Deliver frequently. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference on the shorter timescale. This has been kind of manipulated to delivering projects in a couple of months, couple of weeks. What it is we want to see is delivering value constantly. Now, a lot of technology companies now deliver customer value every 20 minutes. Amazon's going through A, B, C, D testing right now on you as you search. There's constant development. Here in New Zealand, a company called TradeMe, which is the equivalent of eBay, delivers daily. Imagine if they waited 3 months. Things would move on so quickly. You need to be releasing almost daily in technology companies, but you need to work out what's the most productive for your organization. For some companies, a few months makes total sense. But if your projects are delivering over 18 months, you don't see value for 18 months, you have to ask yourself why. You can say, oh, it's because it's a mainframe. I can't do this until this. It's a Windows 10 rollout. I can't deliver value till it's all ready. Okay? If you've really thought about it and you found the lowest time frame to deliver some value to actually warrant the example, the assumptions, then great. But I give you an example. At a government entity, they were doing a Windows 10 rollout, and their project was 9 months. And the first person to get a Windows 10 machine was 7 months. I helped them set up a pilot to deliver the Windows 10 machines in the first 3 days to a small group of people. And we found out that multiple systems didn't actually work. And we're like, whoa, that could have been, oh, we would have found that in testing. Yes, you would have found that in testing in 4 months' time. Now we know about it in the first 3 days. So yes, it doesn't actually mean that you need to bring everything forward. What it means is to verify assumptions as early as possible, so you can deliver customer value as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you're just delivering the projects, and then you're going backwards and forwards between bugs and defects and changing requirements for many months, and you never deliver to the customer. All about delivering to the customer. Organization collaboration. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So let's start with what this one means. Again, it's 1990s, early 2000s, and there are lots of projects, and technology departments are normally like an external CapEx resource. They must work together, right? It's 2021 now. And yes, I understand in a lot of countries this may not be the case, but here in New Zealand, the terminology of business versus IT is old hat. And we need to get out of this train of thought. People in IT, you are the business. It's not us and them. You are the business. You need to be collaborating and mixing yourself way more. Projects don't even need to exist. You can have a continuous improvement process. So I think this principle is null and void in 2021. But if you're still working as separate entities, I would focus more on bringing the cultures together. And if you're still working in projects, then you need to start thinking about what skills you actually need on your project to not create an us and them. Again, it's culture. I'd focus on culture and not this principle. Trust and motivation. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. As we've spoken about in previous lessons, we need to trust our employees. They are the knowledge workers. They know more than we do. We need to get things and move them out of the way so they can get their stuff done. Okay? That's kind of the main thing around this. As a project manager, if you're listening to this, you may think in terms of, okay, I need to make sure I have the right skills, and I need to make sure that I give them an environment where they can flourish their creativity. Yeah, perfect. Face-to-face communication. Again, remember this is 2000 now. They wrote the principles in 2000. Skype was terrible back then. There was no Zoom. There was no Google Hangouts. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversations. We read this now and we go, oh yes, we can't have Trello, we can't have Zoom, we must have face-to-face. This was to stop emails. Emails are hopefully dying out. I can't stand emails. But what we found back then is that people would send emails like hot potatoes, like, oh, not my job anymore, here you go. And then miscommunications would happen, things would get escalated, and it just wasn't a very good system. Face-to-face communication made total sense. Get up, talk to somebody. During COVID-19, you just rang someone on your face-to-face communication tools. Yes, there is thought process that actual face-to-face makes more sense. I use the example in my class that this camera is set to a 50mm focal length. Why is that? Because this is the most natural look of a camera. Your laptops are not. They actually, they kind of, your laptops will flex the image, right? So it's not natural. You want things to be as natural as possible. So I'm not saying everyone should go out and buy a digital SLR and then have 50mm focal length. I'm saying you want your face-to-face communications to be as natural as possible. Okay? A good microphone actually sorts that out more than a camera, to be fair. Have a think about that and how you do your online collaboration. Are you doing it over email? Probably not best. Are you doing it over Skype or Zoom? Fantastic. How do you improve that process? I once had a vendor, which I thought was amazing. So during COVID-19, their virtual backgrounds were actually all their office. So they felt like they were part of the office. I thought that was pretty cool. So there's always little workarounds. Delivered value. I think we know where we're going with this one. Working software is the primary measure of progress. And I'll add to that. Working software that the customer is using is the primary measure of progress. You could have a whole bunch of software that's actually been developed and no one's using it. That's not progress. That could be features that no one wants. But the main thing here is delivered value is the most important bit. Oh, sustainable. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. The whole start, stop, and burning out your staff, as I said to you in the leadership lesson, it's good in the short term. It can be good in the short term, but it's not good in the long term. Motivations decrease, creativities decrease, stress cortisol levels increase, you lose staff. You want to create a sustainable pace. Now, it doesn't have to be 2 week sprints. That could be 90 days. It could be monthly. Find something that works for your organization. And what you don't want to see is peaks and troughs. You want to see a nice smooth flow of work. And if that means less work, I'd recommend it. Do less work, one step backwards for 2 steps forward. Makes way more sense than trying to maintain some high level of outcome. Quality built in. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. 100%. I love the word agility there, of course. We want to make sure that we're building quality into our products, and we want to make sure that we're not going to leave bugs for somebody else. You don't want to throw over the fence to another department. Here, oh, OpEx, there you go, have fun. You want to basically make sure you're having a good design and you're delivering and you don't have bugs, you don't raise technical debt. Your quality is built in. It's your number one focus. Simplicity is key. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the work not done, is essential. Just keep it simple. You don't want to do a whole bunch of features and then realize that only some are required. You don't want to make it more complex than you have to make it just because you can. Don't make yourself busy for the sake of being busy. Do the most valuable thing in the shortest period of time and cost. Don't increase your technical debt, no, but don't make it more complex than you need to. I don't need a toothbrush that has all these buzzing lights and cool stuff that, or maybe it senses how many times I brush my teeth. I'm sure someone out there would want to have that on their app, but most customer segmentations, I can't imagine them actually liking that. Self-organizing teams. Self-organizing teams. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Why? Intrinsic motivation goes up, the teams know best. I'll go one step further and say that self-organizing teams and tribes make the most sense. You want to make sure people are working on what they want to work on, because that will give you the most productivity, the most happy staff, the most customer value. Okay, evolve through reflection. As we said beforehand, Bassett, 1998, reflection is all about taking actions to continuously improve the way you do things. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes, adjusts in behavior accordingly. Again, what is a retrospective? It's a group reflection. The Agile Manifesto didn't actually say retrospective, they said reflection. So feel free to use the word reflection as it's more aligned to the academic rigor. Cool. The Agile principles. Take what you want from it, remove what you don't. The values are more important than the principles, but the principles are sometimes easier to implement. You may have heard before, big A, little a. Big Agile, little Agile. And you're wondering, what does that even mean? Well, I'm here to inform you what people are talking about. When you talk about the processes and the tools, you talk about doing Agile. Doing Agile. When you talk about the principles, the values, and the mindset, you talk about being Agile. As you can see, big A, little a. So when people say, do you mean Agile or Agile? It's very frustrating. I've had it in interviews where people have asked a coach, have you implemented little Agile or big Agile? And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness. But what they mean is processes or culture. Rigidity versus agility. Culture. Now, have you been involved in a cultural transformation? Is what people are asking to when they say little a. And this is, from a leader's perspective, this is up to you. When you think in terms of, do I want a big A, little a transformation? What you're really saying is, do I want to do culture first or culture second? And this is up to you and your organization. A lot of coaches will say culture first, people first. And I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is sometimes it makes more sense to have tools and processes in an amber environment pushed onto staff where they can adapt continuously and slowly understand principles and values that they specifically need. And that naturally changes the culture. Culture, what's done here? You could change it both ways, but I'm actually a little bit of a believer of doing the process first, especially in amber organizations. Do the process, make it goal-driven, turn into orange, change the culture, move into green. If you're in orange already, then maybe actually moving into culture transformations makes sense. You gotta weigh out the pros and cons. The culture is all about behaviors, traditions, and expectations. So, in the way there. We spoke about the Agile Journey already in terms of leadership. Okay, you can teach, facilitate, coach, support, and it's situational to the team, right? I want to talk about another version of this, which is called Shuhari. Now, in Shuhari, it's spoke about quite a bit, but I don't think there's always a massive understanding of what it means. Shu, follow the rules. Ha, bend the rules. Re, break the rules. So the idea around this is everyone on an Agile transformation starts off at Shu, which means you follow the rules. So coaches that come in and say, oh, you can do whatever you like, you can have fun, rah, rah, rah. And then they teach Shuhari, I get confused. Because the whole point of Shuhari is Shu, follow the rules. This came from martial arts. And the idea behind this was if you were a novice in martial arts, you would follow the rules. You would learn the katas, you would learn the moves from your sensei. Then when you become a black belt, you start bending the rules, trialing different things, trialing different martial arts, creating your own little system. And then when you're an actual master, you would break the rules. You would create your own dojo and start becoming your own sensei. In Agile transformation, this makes total sense. Follow the frameworks, processes, and tools that will best allow you to start trialing different things. Once you understand them concretely, start testing new ones. Start iterating. Start maneuvering. And once you understand what your bespoke process and tools that you require and what culture you require, break the rules, do whatever you need to do. SHU, process and tools, HA, values and principles, RE, mindset. Cool. It's not just software. These software developers can think they own Agile because it says the fourth word is software in Agile Manifesto. Yep, that's cool. Agility's been around a lot longer. And the Agile guys would have got all of their work from previous documentation. Scrum, for instance, was a Harvard Business Review article in 1987. I think it was called Rugby or something similar. Software developers can feel they own it, but they don't. Okay? Always remember that. Are the processes and tools used outside of software? 100% yes. Definitely. Car manufacturing have tried this. We've seen it in hospitals. If you go to your local hospital, you'll probably find that a Kanban system as well. They've embraced a lot of principles. I hear about just general small businesses using sprints, and I was like, what's a sprint in your industry? But it's just a continuous improvement process they're doing. It's not just for software. Do the principles make sense for delivering non-software customer value? Yep, 100%. As I said in the previous statement, there is no reason why Agile delivery cannot be used in almost every single industry out there, as long as it makes sense. It doesn't increase customer value, or your time to market is actually a very long one, or there's too much risk in actually deploying something that is subpar, then no, don't use Agile. If people are going to die because you delivered an inferior solution, do not use Agile. You want to embrace failure, and failure cannot be resulted in something that has a massive impact, like death, or a massive financial burden, like losing 20% of your GDP. Agile is designed for where failure is good and you can continuously improve in small iterations. So you've had business agility values, you've had Agile values. So which ones do we use, Mike? Which ones do we use? Why not both? Use both, use neither, use one or the other. It's irrelevant. Create your own. These are here as tools for you to use if you want to use them. The business agility values are based on objective science, and they will change over time if the science was to change. And we're constantly getting data in to validate those values. Agile values were created in Utah with 17 individuals and have not changed in 21 years. So I would recommend personally the business agility values over the Agile values, but start where you want to start and move towards having your own bespoke values over time. It would be my recommendation.